Welcome everybody. I am in Belize, South America now, South America. Welcome everybody. I'm in Belize and am having had a wonderful day learning more about the Mayans and the culture that's very present here in Central America. And it's just a beautiful, clean place to be. So, welcome everybody. Tonight we have a very special guest. A sister who is a millennial and who is very familiar with being a doula on the other side, the death doula, not the birth doula. So that's tonight. We're going to welcome her and talk about transitions tonight. But first, Blog Talk is no longer part of our family. And so I'm going to welcome. Okay, we're gonna have Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is working perfectly in Belize, even though we're in Central America. Wi-Fi is working perfectly. So let me welcome my Tiny House Village family because we are on YouTube, Viada's Tiny House Village. So let's rock and roll in my tiny house. So that is just a taste of the journey I've been on to live in a smaller space, minimalism lifestyle, and meeting some really interesting people along the way and having developing the skills of renovation, improvement, and so much more. But tonight, we're talking about transitions. transitions of souls from this body. And how do we handle that? How do we process that? Well, I have my female solution host family joining me, and even the daughter of one of our hosts is that Deborah's daughter or niece, and then Zelda of Monday Morning Mindfulness joining us. And then we have a very special guest we've invited to join us who is what you would call a death doula. So we got a lot to talk about. And for those of you who have not been with us on other Sunday night shows where we have designated the last Sunday of every month to bring these amazing sisters together of the Female Solution to help you process transitions in your life, whether they be out of the body or whether they be relationships. We got the experts here tonight. My sister Naima Latif, my sister Zelda, and move around with Deborah's stand-in guest for tonight. Let me start with move around Deborah
look like Deborah.
to
Okay.
know who this beautiful face is tonight. Would
Younger.
you like to introduce yourself?
Hi,
Move
ladies.
around, Deborah. Stand
Um,
in.
I am Deborah's daughter-in-law. I am
Oh,
married to her son, Isaac
Okay.
Alexander. Yes.
Ah, fantastic. All right now.
well,
So, yes. All
nice
right.
to
Well
have
done.
you. Nice to have you. And
Thank
then we
you.
have the Naima Latif, our executive producer. Naima, you want to give your introduction?
Hey! I'm Naima Latif, and I am enjoying this show so very much. I always enjoy these Sunday night programs, Soul Purpose Healing, because I believe my soul purpose is to be a healer on the planet. I know that that is one of the reasons why I incarnated, but I have had such profound experiences with people who have transitioned that I feel the urge to share it for those who are struggling with that next phase of their eternal life, which is back into spirit and out of this body. So I'm glad that every last Sunday of the month we can address that and help bring some joy to this really joyful process of going back home.
Absolutely. Thank you, sister. And then Zelda, my sister Zelda, this in 2024, I think more than any other person, she experienced close relations leaving planet Earth and saying, I've had enough, going back to a peaceful place. So, Zelda, introduce yourself and tell us about whatever you want to say about transitioning because you have
Ooh,
experienced it, my
Lord have
sister.
mercy. Ooh, Lord have mercy. That's all I can say.
Sometimes that's all we need to say.
Okay. This is my therapy.
Yes.
So I am constantly learning for the last 6 months, year. It's just everybody every month. Just lost my niece, 61 years young. She just left 2 weeks ago. Before that, I mean, the list is just it's just endless. So
Wow.
this is a way of me learning. I'm so glad that Deborah's
Daughter-in-law.
daughter-in-law,
Daughter-in-law.
daughter-in-law is here because I'm very
Daughter love.
very interested in what she has to say. So I'm here to learn. I'm just here to observe, and we'll continue this conversation in some form tomorrow morning on Monday morning mindfulness. New time, 7 until 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. Where we will be discussing? What will we be discussing tomorrow, Naima? We just had that discussion today. Oh, learning from letting seasoned sisters save you from unnecessary painful mistakes. I
Yeah.
will be joined by CEO and founder of Sisters of the Hood, Linda Barker.
Mhm.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So, daughter-in-law of Deborah. Tell us your name again.
Tanika.
Tanika. Now, were you born between 1980 and 1990?
Yes.
Okay, so you would be in the millennial or generation
Generation Y, I think, in that
category, right?
Wow.
millennials, they call the Generation Y. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about our guest tonight is actually in the same millennial generation Y category, let's say. And I would just like to hear from you
Mhm.
about what has been your experience with transitions with close friends, relatives? How have you processed that? And what are your feelings about it as far as expectations? Because somebody's going to leave the planet soon. We just never know when. So tell us a little bit about what you feel and how you process transitions in your life.
Um, to be honest, I process it with the mental thing. Um, mentally prepared, no. Physically understanding, yes. Um, I still have um haven't processed a lot of people that I have lost. Friends, mothers, things of that nature. But I am processing to know that is the next step. Um, what do I do? To be honest, I just talk to God. I don't question it because I know it's a purpose, it's a reason He wants them there. Um, I just stay prayed up. That's the best I can do. By me being a person that has never had that type of connection of family, you know what I'm saying? I process things differently. So I mentally put myself prepared for it, but also grab it at the same time of not understanding, if you
Mm,
get what I'm saying.
mm.
Um, that's basically it. That's how I do it. I have a mental thing, so I mentally get prepared for it and I process the best way I can.
Mm.
Yeah. You know what I found interesting? There were so many young people in the 90s because I guess I don't know if it was a crime wave or whatever was happening, but there were so many young people that were forced to deal with the transition of close friends very early in life. A lot of grief that was happening, and I saw it in the schools uh, during that period of time. I saw how many people were experiencing the transition of their children, which is very difficult for parents. And usually you look at it as something that happens when somebody's older. You kind of expect it. Okay, grandma's 99. Okay, well, great grandma, whatever. Uh, she's old, or grandpa is, 80 years old and smoked all his life, got emphysema. It's probably going to not be long. I mean, you just expect it. But when you start having like teenagers and things like that, that was a difficult time for a lot of people. And a lot of the acting out that we saw was really grief that had not been handled properly. Because
Process.
this is a society that doesn't know how. And first of all, we don't know how to handle transitions
Right.
Mhm.
in a way that honors the person's life,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know how to put a positive spin on it. So you will have people feeling like, well, why did God take my loved one? Do you have, and then we don't have, if the person doesn't have some type of, I guess, religious doctrine that they follow, then there's or spiritual belief, then there's a belief that that person is gone forever and they'll never exist again. And sometimes people are even afraid to speak their name. It's like, oh, we can't talk about them anymore, they're gone. So we wanted to have a healthy way to help people see life differently. And I think that's maybe part of my calling as well, because I've been allowed to go between worlds, and I have not had a near death experience. I have not died at all, but I have been allowed to experience the other side with people who have transitioned
Mm-hmm.
and come back and have a totally different experience when someone who's close to me does transition, because I know how it's possible to still interact with them. But I also noticed that this society is kind of afraid of that and won't even want to let you talk about it. So this is a new period in time where it's even now been socially acceptable to talk about.
Is that solo travel, Naima?
Yes, I've astral travel, and where your spirit is able to leave your body.
Is
And
that something that you can teach people?
yes, and I've thought about, because you see all kinds of YouTube instructional videos. I've been thinking of a healthy, wholesome way to teach the method of reconnecting with a loved one who has recently departed. And as soon as I can formulate the right words to describe it and the right way to help people put themselves in the state of mind to make that connection, I think I'm going to do a training series on that. And I think it would be helpful. But one thing I realize people got to undo is fear and belief that there's something evil about that, because that's part of our religious fear-based training. And you have to undo that before you can, in a healthy way, connect with the ever-existing spiritual energy of a person who has left their physical body.
So, well, then indoctrinated. So, I just want to say for the record that I'd be your first student.
Oh, all righty. Hey,
I'm ready.
We
Whatever.
do this, yes. And I discovered. I think when my father was the first person close to me that had transitioned, and you never know how you're going to handle grief until it hits you. I didn't know how I was going to handle the absence of my father. I didn't know how I was going to handle being there as he made that transition. I didn't know how I was going to handle helping my mother through her grieving process, because she's a very private kind of person that doesn't show emotions. But so I'm still speaking to her in the past tense, even though she has transitioned. But I never think of people as gone, because they're not. They're just not embodied, but they're still here. So it was a challenge for me. But then he came to me in spirit several times after his transition. And I didn't know if my sisters didn't have that experience. So I was thinking, well, how come they didn't have the experience? But I think I've always kind of had that closer connection to the spirit realm, because I used to see people, in my younger days in college. I had experiences with other beings coming to visit me, and I was frightened. I didn't know what was happening. And they would touch me and pull me like, come with us, and I'm like, what? So my roommate, or one of my friends, I think we weren't roommates at the time, but she had this Christian pastor, and she said, well, let me take you to Reverend so-and-so. I can't remember his name. And then he said, well, let me say some prayers over you, and I drive those demons away. And the assumption is that this is something evil, and this is why I would tell a person, don't project negativity onto things that are unseen. Because everything that is unseen is not evil, but you are going to attract to you, just like in life, just like in the physical realm, you're going to attract to you the kind of being that you are. So if you are a lower vibration being, somebody who does mean things, somebody who's always angry or nasty to people, then that's the kind of entities that are around you that are unseen. If you are a loving, kind being, you giving out positive vibrations. If you leave this physical body, those are the beings that you're going to experience in your presence, the ones of a higher vibration. So you always attract to who you are.
So, Tanika, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are both your parents still with you or living?
Well, I was a foster kid since I was 6. My father, he passed away, I want to say like 5 years ago. Don't know. My mother, she's still on earth. Where? I don't know. There's no communication, none of the above.
So that's one of those complex relationships where you were not living in a home with both parents, and yet you're aware that there's still one of them at least is still here.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we think about processing or responding to people leaving us, it's either they suffer a long sickness and then they go into hospice, and to me, we have time to prepare for their leaving when that happens. Someone has cancer diagnosis, we go with them through the treatments, then they go in the hospice, and then they're gone. Now that's what happened with my sister who was older than me. She had a long period of suffering. Then
Mm-hmm.
she went in the hospice, and then when she passed, the number three was everywhere. And I learned about paying attention to numbers when she
Mm.
left. So for you, how do you look at, especially for our guest tonight, who's late? I don't know where she is. I've been trying to call her. But our guest tonight is a death doula. Could you see yourself, Tanika, being a death doula? Because I think all of us can be.
I guess you'd have to explain what that is and what they do.
Exactly. When we reach the level of maturity to know, like Naima said, what is that, first of all? But when we reach the level of maturity to understand what Naima just described, when people leave our lives, what is really going on, what's going on in the spirit. But like you said, you're handling it in your mind. So for a death doula, that's just someone who's able to help the person leaving have a smooth, peaceful transition and
Mm-hmm.
not go, oh, I don't want to leave here and, suffer and cry. But a lot of us know that that's going to be the most beautiful place to go when we leave this body. There's no more suffering. Do
Mm-hmm.
you see yourself knowing of what a death doula? Could you ever think of yourself as helping someone in your life that you love actually transitioning to a more peaceful place? Is that a thought is that something you could think about? Because we want people to think like death doulas, that
Yeah.
we're still here, we still have a life going on, but the person we love is about to escape.
Mhm. I
Joy.
have. I have.
What's your thought on that?
I think I can. I know I can actually.
Really?
I helped my foster mother transition.
Wow. What was that like?
You know what about her being so spiritual and our family was so spiritual? I'm not saying I'm all spiritual and things of that nature, but that's how she was, and it's just the way it was. It was peaceful. It was so peaceful. We gave her flowers. We put on her special music. We talked to her,
Nice.
and it was like she was like, "I'm ready." And we was
Mm.
like, "We know you are. You've been prepared before it was time to be prepared."
Mm.
So it was wonderful, and we
Mm.
Wow.
were all ready.
What a
No, we
blessing.
wasn't ready for her to go, but that C person came in and took effect of her body.
Mm.
So we were mentally prepared. We was like anytime soon. So she had her flowers, and she said, "Give me my flowers while I'm alive. Play my music. I don't want no crying. I don't want none of that." And we gave her exactly what she asked for. So it was okay. It was great for me because I was able to not only live with her since I was a teenager and the way she loved me as a daughter, to watch her go where she wants to go. And that was to be with God.
Now,
Yep.
could you do that with someone that maybe you weren't as close to? Like, maybe, how close are you with your birth mom?
We're not close at all.
Okay. So, if you hear news that your birth mom's about to transition, what do you think your mental, emotional adjustment would be for her? Could you step in as a death doula if you needed to?
To be honest with you, I don't think so.
That would be for her. Could you step in as a death doula?
I don't think it's our relationship. So I
Yes.
wouldn't even know what to, you know,
Yes.
I couldn't even know what to expect. I couldn't know what to say. I don't know nothing of my mother but her name. So I'll be I'll be blank, to be honest. I'll be totally blank because I wouldn't know what to say. Like, what am I supposed to say? I know she's my mother. I don't know.
That's
I couldn't have no. I
That's
couldn't have
what
no thought. Yeah.
that's what happens in someone in the role of a death doula. You might be called in to help this person transition that you've never even met.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm asking you that as a to prepare you for your role as a death doula. Someone you're not close to, someone you've never met, but you know they're about to enjoy a peaceful dimension out of this one. And so it's just something to help you think about.
Yeah. I
Someone
think
in
I'll
your life,
be prepared. I think
someone
I
in your life might leave, and are you ready to help them leave, regardless of what type of relationship you
Yeah.
had?
I
Well, I
think
think what happens also, because you never know where you might end up, on the street or anything. Somebody, I had a friend who he was driving down the street and he saw this man crash his car into, I guess it was an overpass, and the truck and flipped over. The man flipped out and hit the pavement right in front of him. And he ran out, and he was trying to comfort the man, saying, "You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right." And he said, like about 30 seconds, he saw the man's eyes flicker and he was gone. And that really kind of traumatized him because it's like, wow, somebody was right there in my hands and he's gone, and I didn't know what to do. And so he was stressed out about that for a long time, feeling guilty and everything, even though it wasn't his fault. It's just something that happened right in front of his face, and he was the person that was there. But he, for a long time, had feelings of grief, of sadness, of guilt, because there was no way to prepare him for being present at someone's unexpected transition. And you never know when you might be the person who is present at a transition. So it's good if you are able to see it differently, and understand that no one leaves here until it's their appointed time. And from my understanding with the studies I've done, before we are born, we give ourselves certain exit points, like the accident that you almost had but didn't have. It was because that was something that you gave yourself before you were born as a possible time that you were going to leave here. But because you hadn't finished what you had to do, your soul knew you weren't ready to go yet. So that car that almost hit you didn't hit you. Just different things like that, where people have different things, different points where they had assigned themselves as a possible exit point. Because when you're planning your life as the soul, before you incarnate, before you come into the flesh, you plan how you're going to leave. And that's and having discovered that, that's why I never worry about someone, as they say, having an untimely death. Death is always timely. It's the time that you plan to leave, unless it's suicide, where you just got to the point where you feel like I can't do this no more, and then you end up leaving before you had planned to go, because you just feel like you can't take it anymore. But other than that, you have planned the time that you're going to go. And you might wonder, well, why would somebody plan a violent leaving? Why would they plan to die in a car crash or something? But from what I've seen of people who have returned from near-death experiences, and they've experienced, seeing how they had planned their exit, the idea of leaving before you're born, it's not a tragic thing. It's like, oh, well, okay, time to go. But when we're here, we think of it as tragic. Oh, there, an accident.
That's what we've been trained. Yep.
But life and death, and everybody who's come back from a near-death experience, they always say, I wanted to tell people who were still here. I wanted to try to tell them, I'm fine, I'm okay, I haven't gone anywhere. I'm right here. I'm just in a different space, but I'm okay. But there's no way there's no way to communicate with people once you're not embodied, because you don't have vocal cords and stuff like that. The only way to communicate is mind to mind, heart to heart, soul to soul, what we call telepathy. But if a person is not open to hearing, then they can't hear you. So that's probably a thing that I would teach in a class, is how to tune in to the unseen person who is still in existence. They're just in spirit as opposed to in body. How to hear them talk to you, how to sense their presence, how to communicate with them. Because there are people who are doing that all over the world and all over the internet. But still, our culture is kind of afraid of that.
And we're supposed to be the leader, not when it comes to this.
This is a very backward culture when it comes to understanding eternity, and part of it is unfortunately the backward religious teachings that we've allowed ourselves to keep a hold of, even when people are constantly having experiences that refute those beliefs that we've been holding on to. I look on YouTube, and like probably a lot of you all, do more YouTube watching than regular TV. There are so many programs handling near-death experiencers, and I'm like, how is it possible we are still believing what we're believing, and there are so many people who have died and come back? And people say, well, then nobody's ever died and come back. Yeah, they have. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands, and they're telling everybody what happens. Just like people say, one day we'll have a cure for cancer. We cured it a long time ago. Why aren't people knowing these things? Mm-hmm. So, it's if you want to know, you can find out. It's right there. Google can show you anything. Just type
in plain sight right before you. It is hard. Let me rephrase that. It is a challenge, a serious mental challenge, as Deborah's daughter-in-law would say. But the more I look at you, you do look like her. It's a challenge.
Hey, that happens.
when you've been programmed from birth, that's the wonderful thing about being in your 60s and 70s and beyond, because you can see things now that you couldn't see 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. You see things like, wow, how can this be? You were indoctrinated.
Now,
Deborah, greetings, everyone.
Is that Deborah or Tanika?
That's that's Deborah. Yeah, that's
Deborah. Greetings, everyone. Have relationships, different roles, and when there's a challenge. Yes.
Yeah.
Part two.
Stranded relationship is hard.
Can you interpret that for us, Tanika, or
you have to be the Deborah interpreter.
let me read that again. Please. Everyone have relationship, different roles, and when there's a challenging, stranded relationship, it's hard. How do you interpret that, Tanika?
What's she saying?
Yeah. Yeah, Deborah, you gonna have to
yeah. What are you saying, Mama? What?
Yeah, that's what we said. What? Okay.
Now, so I interpret that to mean like with Tanika and her birth mother. Your birth mother has not played the traditional role of nurturing you, caring for you, talking to you, helping you, supporting you. I'm trying to interpret what she's saying. That's a different role than the traditional mother relationship. And when there's a challenging, what she was saying, stranded relationship, it's hard. So is that hard for you, or more challenging that your birth mother has not
strained relationship,
traditional role for you?
Yeah, I think she was saying strained relationship. I'm thinking that's what she meant.
At
first, you said?
Mm-hmm. Of course. At first, it was very challenging for me because I didn't understand why. What's the reason? But then when I heard little bits and pieces, I still didn't understand because you're my mother. So there's nothing in the world should have stopped you other than talking about police, CPS, all the above, you allowed my father to intervene and take me and never return. So that was still something I don't understand. What was the reason? Won't nobody tell me the reason. But yeah, it was a challenge for me at first because I didn't understand why me. What was the relationship between you and my father? Why was there so much friction, and why was I the chosen one to go
So now what I'm understanding,
trauma and stuff? What was the purpose? But
these are good questions. Go ahead, Naima. These are great
what I'm
questions.
understanding is that we do choose our parents for specific reasons because there's a certain experience we want to have as a soul. We want to experience a certain thing so that we can perhaps master a certain emotion that comes with it. So whatever it is that you had to face as a result of your mother making that choice, how do you feel about the thought that you made a decision pre-birth in order to go through this process of perhaps having your birth mother not be there, and what did that force you to have to face as a child? Did it force you have to face feelings of abandonment? Did it force you have to face
horrible
uncertainty?
It was horrible. It was horrible. To be in the hands of a person that you call daddy, it was horrible.
Well, how was he as a father? I mean, was he able to fill in?
Horrible. By any names of horrible you could think of, that's what he was. He was horrible. So I didn't see the point. You know, you took me from my mom because of y'all situation to do worse than what she was doing. Kind of confusing to me. Don't understand what you do. What was your purpose? You know.
Now I had watched this woman who had gone through a past life regression therapy session in which she was taken back pre-birth to discover, why she made the choices for the life she had. And she had a, really challenging childhood, parents were abusive and all of that. And what she found out was that in her pre-birth plan, because the way it works, before you incarnate, you sit down with a council of, guides and teachers and people who kind of guide you through your life plan and what you're going to experience. And she had decided that she was going to have this mother and this father be her parents so that she could experience harsh treatment, because what she knew that she needed to work on as a soul was having the strength to stand up for herself and have confidence in herself. So the way we learn in this realm and earth is to experience the contrast, or maybe the opposite of what it is that we want to experience, so that we can develop. It's like lifting weights. You lift weights to get stronger. So she chose those parents so that she could get stronger in her inner confidence to take care of herself, because her parents were not there. So that made her have to be the kind of person that was self-reliant and independent. And so once she came out of the hypnotism, and they played the tapes of her, what she said while she was under hypnotism, and she realized that she planned that life. She had a whole different perspective, and all of us have planned our lives. Because you think, well, why would I choose this mother? Why would I choose this father? They did this to me, they did that to me. But sometimes it's to develop a particular quality, because all of us are living many, many, many lives, and each life teaches us something. So if we know that, then we don't look at it as, oh, this life it's over with. That's the end of me. No, this is one in a series of lives that you're experiencing. It's just like if you see an actor in a movie and they play one role, and you watch the movie and it's a great movie, the Academy Award performance, great. Okay, the next time you see the actor, they're playing another role, and that's a whole nother character. So that's how our lives are. Each life is a different character that we're playing. And then once that movie is over, then we're playing a whole different character. And that other character has nothing to do with this character right here. because each life we go through a veil of forgetfulness of everything so that we can kind of start fresh. But our soul does keep track of the experiences so that each life can kind of build on what we learned in each other life.
Now, Deborah is clarifying, I think. She said
Yeah,
strange
I thought you were saying strain.
are
Yeah.
hard to be a doula for. So here's my thought on this, Tanika. When we look at our great grandparents, your great grandparents go back thousands of years. There's how many great great grandparents do each of us have? You know, great 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 grandparents.
Can't even go
When
by
we,
internet.
when you, I think what can help you be a doula in a strained relationship is to realize the energy from great 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 parents all the way forward to your birth mother and your birth father that brings in a very dysfunctional family sometimes because those great 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 grandparents were so stressed, were so imperfect, were so wounded, were so everything. And if you didn't know your great 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 grandparents, this is how I look at it. I had Native American great 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 grandparents, and I watched a show on Netflix called Lives. It was a native. It was about the battle between the Mormons, the Native Americans, and the Europeans on Netflix. There was so much violence and hatred in
I
that
can
in
imagine.
that history that I was like, wow, it's amazing that I'm even here when I had all those great 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 grandparents involved in all that violence and hatred and evil and whatever. So if you, as I think what help can help you be a doula even in a strained relationship with your birth mom or birth father, look at their great great grandparents and what did they go through. We don't know sometimes, but you can bet if you didn't have healthy parents, they had a lot of dysfunction going on in their great great grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
They were not able to overcome that when you came along.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we all can have more sympathy, more love, more patience, more understanding, overstanding about our imperfect parents because we didn't know our great 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 grandparents what they were going through, and that DNA activity is still active in even us today.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you are here is no accident, I don't think.
There are no accidents.
Fine order.
You
There's
can
no such
share
thing as an
that you
accidental
can
birth.
share with us your imperfect parents. And that we can maybe help all of us to be doulas in strained relationships because we didn't know our great 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 grandparents. We didn't know their great great grandparents. And it all was mostly dysfunction, especially in the Black community where
And if we've been
slavery, Native Americans chopping off heads, whatever.
everybody, and that's the thing. Everybody has descended from some kind of dysfunction. And if you've been a parent, you've been dysfunctional. I mean, I have to
Yeah.
face whatever errors I made, and my
Mhm.
child survived despite my errors. But there were times when I thought I was doing the right thing, but I did
Yeah.
some dumb things. But I thought I was doing the right thing, and that's the thing. Like you were saying, Beata, all of our ancestors had some level of dysfunction because the society was dysfunctional and it's still dysfunctional.
Mhm.
So you don't know that you made errors until later on in life when you get wisdom, but you couldn't have got the wisdom unless you had made the errors. So the only thing we can do is forgive the people for doing the best they knew how at the time, and they just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And hopefully we all live long enough to forgive the people who came before us, because that's the only way you can let go of the burden of sadness, resentment, or whatever the case may be, or
Mhm.
regret, and just knowing they did the best they knew how with all whatever problems they had, and in the dysfunctional society that they grew up in, and all of that. Because
And
all
that forgiveness is for you. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
for them.
yes, you
Mhm.
forgive
It is.
so that you
If
can
you
let
can
go of the
forgive,
burden.
if you can
And
forgive somebody else, you can forgive yourself, because we hold more judgment against ourselves than
Mhm.
anybody out there ever will.
And the doula's role is support.
Yeah.
And whether it's bringing in a new baby out of the womb of a mother or ushering out a soul to a better dimension. I say better dimension because getting out of this craziness is a blessing. But a doula's role is support. So you can be a support even to a strained relationship if you are consciously aware of all the dysfunction that that person has brought with this ending of their life on earth.
Yeah.
And it takes a mature person. So everybody's not ready to be a doula, a death doula, birth doula, or anything, because you have to come out of your selfishness. You have to come out of your sadness about what happened to mom with mommy and dad. You have to come out of that and really focus on the soul that you have met, that it's time for them to leave, or in the baby case, it's time to welcome a new baby. Look at the big head coming out of there. Doula's role is a mature. The doula's role is a mature role either way. You can't be childish and selfish as a doula, because then the person that you're supposed to be helping, whether it's exit or entrance, is going to suffer more. You're going to make their exit better, their entrance better, if you can be totally conscious and totally unselfish.
Yeah, I think that's all part of the process of helping a person have a smooth transition. Is first of all letting go of any regrets that you have or blame, because a lot of times people leave this world and they're in distress because they think of all the things that they did or did wrong, or they regret that they didn't do or didn't say and all of that. And you have to just let them know it's okay. I hold no grudges against you. Matter of fact, I think I remember Oprah saying, because she had kind of a challenging relationship with her mother, and she finally went to her and said she wasn't going to go and see her before she passed, and she finally decided to go and see her. And she said, I knew you did the best you knew how to do, and she was able to just kind of let go all of the regrets, because her mother had not been there for her in her earlier life, and all the things that happened as a result. And it's hard sometimes when that the choices that your mother made or even your father made caused you to have a harder life, but and then they may realize it and feel some real regret at the end of their life. And that's how come sometimes people suffer on their way out of here, because they got all this guilt that they're holding. And then if you got religious beliefs about hell and all of that, God's gonna punish you and you're gonna burn and all that stuff. And that's what makes people suffer, believing in a hell. And I know it's hard for people to realize, but there is no hell other than the one that you create.
Okay, now.
Hell awaiting anybody, none. And I know it's hard for the religious people to accept that, but the fact is, we are sent forth into this earth realm knowing that we don't remember anything about what we plan to do, and we're going to make mistakes. So how cruel would it be to be punished for something you couldn't possibly even know? No parent would be that cruel, but some parents are. But certainly the divine mind that created the universe of which we all are part would be so cruel as to cause you pain because you in your ignorance caused yourself pain because of what you didn't remember. That makes no sense at all. So there is no hell, and everybody who comes back from near-death experience and says there's no hell, sometimes they get attacked by religious people who wants there to be a hell. I'm like, why do you want that? What's wrong with you?
Because that's what you've been told since birth.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get that out of your psyche.
It's hard to get.
So Tanika, do you have children yet?
I do.
How many?
5.
Whoa.
Oh, hey, be fruitful and multiply.
All right. You see her face just lit up.
Village. We're the village. We welcome you into this village. Whatever you need to support raising those 5 children, we're here for you. We're here for you.
Oh, they grown except for one.
Oh, that's exciting then.
Really?
So you've done your job.
I'm done.
So what happens if one of them transitions before you do? What happens in your mind and your heart and emotions?
Definitely will be emotional.
Yeah.
But
What would you be? What would be your primary feeling? Do you think hurt, pain, whatever, regret, sorrow? What would you be
hurt.
feeling?
I'd be hurt.
Yeah.
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 So I had a cousin who had 8 children. They were all adults, and one of her children transitioned,
Mhm.
and she went into such a deep depression for
Mm.
like 3, 4, 5 years. It's been a while. 8 children. I couldn't even. I only have two, and I was trying to be sympathizing, but I couldn't understand. After 2, 3 years, she was still in depression about this one son out of 8. I was like, "Whoa, what is going on here?" So
But that
eventually,
one son, that's who, I mean,
but
it's not like, oh, we
eventually,
got 7 more. No, that one is still a part of who she is.
so
And
eventually, though, what I want to say is, eventually, she had a stroke and almost
Mm.
died because I
grief.
saw it as a long-term chronic grief.
Yeah.
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 So I want you to think about the fact that being a doula of your own children will help you live and support the other children better. If you can if you can walk into the role of doula, even for your own self, because your children, the ones you birthed, become soul partners. After once they're grown, once they're older, you are now a soul partner for them to teach you something about their choices in life, their journey in life. And so we want to help you look at these 5 souls differently so that you don't fall apart, you don't go into deep grief and affect your own health and your own body, because that's what'll happen
But
if
Mhm.
you
you
know, Rihanna,
if you don't come out of that long-term grief. Now it's okay to grieve, but if you stay in that for too long, your cells are going to start saying, oh, she doesn't want to really live, she doesn't want to have joy, and then your other children will be affected. And sometimes what we need to be able to do is help the other children be doulas as well. So go ahead, Naima.
well, you know, Rihanna, you don't really know how someone's transition is going to affect you until it happens.
Exactly.
Um, even, you know, philosophically, I might say one thing, but my one child, if she were to transition, and it all depends on how it would happen, if it was sudden, if it was long illness or whatever, but still, that would affect me. Even though I would feel like, well, okay, well now she's with her father, and I'm sure they're enjoying life, but it would affect me, and I can't say how. I would hope I would still have the understanding, but grieving is a natural part because it's the
Absolutely.
separation. And yes, you know, philosophically, they're still among you, but you do realize that this physical experience you cannot have together for the rest of your physical experience. And uh, that's one of the things that I have to think about. If I'm going to help people with this, can I do it in a way that recognizes their right to grieve without making them feel like, oh, you're not spiritual enough, you're still grieving? Because, you know, who knows how someone's passing is going to affect. Just like you say, you know, your sister, how hard it was for her to deal with her daughter's transition and of course affect her body and all of that, which it does. Grief does affect your physical health, but there are a lot of different issues that come up when someone is passing away. Sometimes there's regret over what didn't happen. Sometimes there's guilt or blame, depending on how it happened. And all of that is part of what a person holds on the inside. And unfortunately, in our culture, we don't encourage people to get grief counseling, and we don't always have good grief counselors to help people through a very painful process, especially if it's unexpected because it's a child that's younger than you.
And Tanika, Naima is absolutely right. You don't know how it's going to affect you, but here's the thing that I see have experienced is that you need to prepare for it.
Oh
I
yeah.
have 2 sons. I have 2 sons. When I went through the suffering with my sister and the death of her child, the spirit told me you need to prepare for your own son's transition. I'm like, oh no, that ain't gonna happen. But preparing for it means to me it's not gonna happen. Because the lesson that I would get if they leave is why do you grieve? How do you grieve? You know, all those lessons that we get when someone we love leaves, we're gonna get a lesson. But if you prepare for it, for me, the preparation was these two boys, these young men, or men now, are my soul partners now. I am not their mother anymore. I don't want to be in that role anymore. I'm their soul partner now because they're adults. When they were young children, they were infants and babies, you were their mom. You had to feed them, you had to clothe them, you had to do all these things. You influence them. I don't influence the sons I birthed anymore at all, pretty much. They don't listen to me like they did when they were younger. So I have had to become a soul partner with them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we
And I
do have a caller.
I have had to watch them make decisions that I would never make. But I'm like, why do you want to interfere with their journey? Is what Spirit keeps telling. Why are you interfering with their journey? That's not your business anymore. You're their partner, not their mother.
Thank you.
That is an adjustment that we can all make with the people we birthed into this atmosphere. Is that this is not your child, my little boy, my little girl. It's not that. That role is gone. This is a soul partner that's going to teach you some hard lessons. So I want to help you prepare just in case. And if you take on that attitude, I believe you won't have to see them transition because you don't need that lesson. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what I always do, which might seem kind of morbid, but every time I leave, especially if I'm leaving the country, I always lay out all of my life insurance papers and, you know, all the information that would go in my obituary and the insurance for my funeral, just in case. Because I don't want my daughter, who would have to handle things, I don't want her to be, you know, going through grief and trying to organize things. So
well, you ought to just say you're planning.
Yeah. So just in case, you know, something happens, I don't come back or whatever, you know, here it is. Now, of course, I would pray that she never have to go through that, at least not while I'm young and vital. But, you know, just from my own peace of mind, if ever I leave, and it could happen, I'm just walking down the street and, you know, cross the street and get hit by a bus. I mean, but, you know, going abroad always makes me remember that there are chances that anything can happen. Yeah. And I wouldn't want her to be traumatized with having to try to plan things and look for papers and all that stuff. You know, I wouldn't want her to have to do that.
That's what a good mother does.
Absolutely.
A
conscious mother. A conscious mother.
Thank you. Consciousness. Okay, that's Zelda. That's the word that all mothers need to take on is consciousness. It's not like you want your children to leave before you, but if you have consciousness, you're prepared if they do. Because why? Because you know this life is temporary. If they leave, they're going to a better place. You know, you think about all the reasons why it's okay if they leave. Your consciousness comes in. Then if it's not going to happen, I believe. When you're if you don't have consciousness about this transition of your children, the Creator going to bring you a lesson about it. But if you have consciousness before it happens, you don't need that lesson anymore. Is what I'm being taught. So I don't even see my sons leaving before me. But if they do, I'm ready. I'm already ready. I'm ready. Consciousness kicks in. Oh, they taught me so and so and so in their young life. They're gone now. And here's the lessons for me. I can teach to my other son or my other grandchildren or whatever. But if you're not conscious, if you're not walking in consciousness about the possibility that they could leave, you're going to get a lesson about it. So why not do it before anything happens? And then you don't need that lesson anymore.
Okay.
We've got a caller. I haven't had a chance to see if they wanted to speak, but I want to give them opportunity. 773-450. Did you have a comment or question you'd like to share with us tonight?
Yeah, I was just going to notate a couple of things. You know, I had two major deaths last year. You know, I only have two brothers. I mean, one brother and two sisters. So my brother passed, and my sister also passed last month. when people die that are important to you in life, there's different ways people grieve over it and different things that you go through when you do that. For me personally, I take it like this. I find it makes me more aware and conscious of being alive. And a lot of times, I almost feel like people who are alive and have health and their strength in their mind are so ungrateful. They should be way more forgiving. They should let things go and all that. Because after all, in life, I say life is for the living. If you want something, you have to reach out to get it. If you just sit there and wait for something, nothing's going to happen. People say, well, pray. But the word tells you to be a doer. So once you pray, it means get up and do something. So if you're just going to sit on the sideline and not be part of the solution, you're going to always feel like you might be in a depressed mode. But as for me, every time I see people around me just snap and do all this different type of stuff and get bent out of shape over the smallest thing, it makes me really aware of why heart attack, stress, and all the stroke and all this other stuff is so prevalent. Because instead of either breathing, exercising, or just letting it go, they hold it in, they just throw it around. And you can see, I mean, even like say for instance in the world when you have an election and then you have a president chosen, whoever it is, there's some people that are so disgusted with who got chosen, it's like their whole existence is ruined. I don't understand that. How can one event mean that much when all you have is one vote? So in life, be among the living. Make sure you choose the better part. Try to look for the best in people. Help somebody who needs it. If you got all that much going for you, then you need to give back.
I agree.
Give something of yourself. Give them your heart. Give them your heart. Give a stranger. Somebody you don't even know that's hurtful. But just be positive with your life, and you will see the difference in the power that you have within yourself just to do that much.
I agree. Thanks for calling. Yeah, I agree. I think people waste a lot of time being upset about things that don't really matter. They grieve themselves to death over things that aren't happening in their own living room. Why?
That's exactly what happened to my niece. And she is still teaching me that in her passing, she had so many issues with her mom from childhood, and I saw it because I was there helping raise her, and I see how it just built up over the years because she used to include me in the conversations, and at some point I just said, look, I am not going back and forth with you and your mom in this. You all have to handle that. You are not going to put me in between that. And when I did that, I think it got worse. I think it got worse. So now she had the stroke. She had 2 strokes and a heart attack. 61 years young.
Wow. Well, see, that's the thing. If you are no longer in your parents' house, no matter how bad they were, they're not hurting you anymore. You're hurting yourself because
you're hurting yourself, and that's exactly what you did. What
happened, and then talking about it and trying to make the memory go away. Well, they can't. Whatever happened, happened. We cause ourselves pain and suffering by reliving things that happened in the past, as if reliving it is going to make it not have happened.
We need a class on forgiveness, don't we? Do we?
Yeah, well, I just listened to a very powerful podcast. I'm going to send you all the links about the steps to forgiveness by a master teacher that I'm sure you all will appreciate. So I'm going to send that because I was thinking, everybody needs to hear this. So yeah, I'm going to send that because that's really it's us that holds on to whatever our parents did, but they did in the past. I can't be angry about
that was then. This is now.
4 years old. Whether I thought a punishment was harsh or whatever. If it happened when I was 4 years old and I'm 64, if I'm still angry about it, that's on me. That's not on her.
And all that negative energy is still in your body.
Zelda, when you look at the people that were in your niece's life, what was missing that she didn't get the forgiveness part? Because like we were talking about, your great-great-great grandparents have put in DNA problems from the time they started, And what happened to your niece that she wasn't able to get the forgiveness part and the love part and all that? Because that's what happened to her. Somebody was not there to help her forgive and learn how to forgive.
I just recently found out. I talked to another relative. I can't remember. Oh, it might have been her mom. I've been talking to so many people. I did not know, and as long as I've been knowing my sister and my niece, I did not know that my niece never felt love from her mom
Mm.
after the next two children came along.
Oh dear.
And I was like, wow, is that what that was all about? She was no longer because she's the oldest. So she was no longer that special child. And when the other two came along, it just went continued to go down. I never would have thought that because I just never would have thought that.
Yeah,
And
So
what
she
was
was
missing
missing the
in her
love.
mother? What was missing in her mother that she couldn't give her that love she wanted?
Love. She couldn't
Mom
give
didn't
her.
get it either, huh?
No, I see that because I see that in my sister.
but you know, a lot of us were raised by mothers who were raised by mothers who were raised by mothers who believe that in order to make your children tough, you know, you can't baby them too much. So a lot of us were raised by parents who didn't receive any affection growing up. So
Mhm.
therefore they didn't know how to give any because they were raised by the same kind of mothers who thought that the way you toughen up a child and make them self-reliant is to not baby them, not cuddle them, not comfort them, make them strong. That's what they're believing. So
Mhm.
we end up growing up feeling unloved because our parents were raised by parents who were raised by parents who were raised by parents, like y'all was saying, the great grandparents. Everybody believing that the way you make a child tough is to not show them any love. Well, that's the
Mhm.
opposite. That's the wrong thing to do. But how many generations do we do that the wrong way before somebody figures out, oh, that doesn't work? That made me
Mhm.
feel bad. So let me
Mhm.
not do that to my children because I know I felt bad when I never got any comfort or affection. So let me do the opposite and give my children love and comfort and affection and make sure that the first child is not ignored when the second child comes, and then the first and the second child is not ignored when the third child comes, and the first, second, and third child is not ignored when the fourth child comes, and so on. Because we know from the mistakes, if we learn from the mistakes of our parents, and we know what they did that made us feel bad, we know not to do it to our children because we don't want them to feel bad. If we learn from those mistakes.
I saw a good example of how to prepare the new child, the present child for the upcoming child when I saw a commercial yesterday where there were triplets being born into a
Mm,
family and there was already one child who was less than a year old. What
wow.
the parents did was went and bought a little mini stroller with three
Oh,
babies already in it, and I was like,
oh,
wow. Her
yeah,
name just I was like, wow. If my
that's what
sister
you
could have
do.
done that for her,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
may not have had the experience that
yeah.
she had.
Make
I was
them
like,
feel part.
wow. I felt like Flavor Flav. Wow.
So Tanika, I think you had more children than all of us. So how did you handle the subsequent children after the first one? You had five. So how did you handle number two, three, four, and five?
And did any of your children feel what we've just been talking
Yeah,
about?
that they got left out or weren't the
My
favorite
oldest, my oldest did.
anymore.
Um, and I'm a backtrack because when I had my baby, I didn't know how to love her. I didn't
Mm,
know what to do with
Mhm,
her. Like
mhm,
I had no clue of how I'm supposed to love this baby because I
mhm,
never knew the knowledge of being loved by my mother.
that's a challenge.
And that
Yeah.
was expressed. I expressed that and I expressed it clearly. I don't know what to do with her. I don't know how to raise her. I don't know how to love her. So I had to grow into that of learning how to love my baby. But she did feel neglected when I had her sister.
of course.
I didn't know why. I thought in my brain, I'm like, okay, you're doing everything right. But it was something in her head, like, nope, you're giving her more than me. and I was here first.
Mm-hmm.
And I
That's
didn't understand. And I'm like, wait, I'm trying to balance everything out. She was like, nope. So she ended up doing some things. She ended up running away for a day. She went to her
That's
friend
big. A
house, and
whole day.
I was all over the place. I'm like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Da, da, da. But she sat down and told me, she was like 7, 8. She was like, you weren't right with me. You was treating my sister better than you treated me, and I didn't think it was fair.
Oh.
Well,
well,
Why
that's
you
good. She's able to articulate. That's
very
good.
outside since birth?
Yeah.
I have been talking to. I need y'all to express yourself. Let me know when I'm doing wrong.
Good
Don't hold.
mothering. Yeah, that's
I
good.
don't want. We don't hold no secrets. Whatever it is, we gonna take it, talk about it, and that's how I've been with my kids, all of them.
That's good.
But
And
she was
thank
like,
you for sharing that, Tanika, because that's a conscious mother. That's not
Yeah.
necessarily a good mother. We need to get away from that good and bad mother.
Yeah,
That's a
conscious.
conscious
'Cause,
mother.
that right. Because a lot
Yeah.
of mothers be like, shut up, you don't say nothing, you don't tell me what to do.
Oh my goodness.
open
I was on
relationship.
the train the other day and there was a lady, she had two beautiful little boys, and I could see that she was stressed, and it's taken all of I have to keep my mouth closed because you don't know what the mental is. I can already see she's stressed. And she was
Mhm.
hollering at him, and I was like, oh my God, what
Oh
can I say to her?
man.
And Spirit said, nothing.
Mhm.
Mind your own business, because she already stressed out and you do
Yeah.
not need to add to it. I was like, oh, thank you for giving me that, because I didn't want to have to go ballistic up in here. And I didn't want to
Yeah.
wind up on the
you
6
know,
Scared to be cussing you out.
Yeah.
they're never too old to ask them to forgive you for your imperfection. I did that
Mm.
with my son.
Yeah. I
What
did
it
tell
was.
my daughter.
Okay,
You did or did not?
I went to him and said, I realized I don't know what I think it was. I was too controlling with you guys, or I didn't give you what enough, and I want you to forgive me. And both of us were almost crying.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
there's something that gets released when
Mhm.
you are conscious enough to say, I'm sorry, I didn't do exactly how. Will you forgive me?
All the time. All the
Yeah.
time. I am very outspoken when I know or I feel. I'm like, come on, let's talk. I apologize.
Yes,
I
yes.
came off wrong, or if I said something or did something.
They
What is
need
it we
that.
can do? Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They need
Yeah.
that. And then that's just because we are so complicated being. We're multidimensional beings. We're complicated. We got
Mm-hmm.
long history of dysfunction. And so at some point we just have to say, you know what, please forgive me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know any better at the time.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Didn't know any better. And
You
Yeah.
so
know better, you do better.
and I
Right.
think
Right.
Right.
that improves the relationship we have with
Oh
our
yeah.
adult soul partners. That's how I call
Yeah.
Yes.
Because once they become adults, they are responsible for their own life. They can't blame you for your mistakes anymore. Oh, I didn't do this because you didn't give me a hug when I. No, okay, now that you're grown, you must take full responsibility for who you choose to become. You
Right.
know, they can't keep blaming whatever happened or didn't
Mhm.
happen on their parents. But it's hard though, because all of us still kind of feel like, well, if I hadn't had this trauma that happened, I might have, you know, achieved this thing or maybe had a better relationship or whatever. It's easy to blame somebody, but at some point you have to take responsibility for the person you choose to become. And
Yeah.
you can point to the parents that you chose to have as not giving you what you needed because you chose to have them for whatever reason, for them
Mhm.
to give you whatever it was they gave you so that you can become who you're becoming.
Well, Tanika, you were chosen divinely to be the replacement for our guest because she didn't show up. So obviously it was you. You're the one.
Yep.
There we go. Divine design. There we go.
Yep.
You have just graduated from Death Doula School, and you have just graduated from Consciousness Parenting. Congratulations.
Yes. But I think that we can learn a lot from the women who are going through that phase of growth. The millennial generation, because the world is different than it was when we were growing up, just like it was different for us than it was for our parents. And I think every generation has to make the adjustments, realizing that the world isn't the way it was when you were that age, and knowing that they have to do things differently. Just like their children are going to be coming into a different world,
Yeah.
and prepare them for that.
So,
Mhm.
Tanika, do you have any final words for us as our special guest tonight?
Well, no. I mean, y'all, but it's been my first time. You ladies are wonderful. My mama had me on the standstill at first. She was like, yeah, I need you to get on here and you need to do pause. Wait a minute. But it was definitely a great learning experience.
Girl, we all learning.
I feel wonderful, and I thank you guys for welcoming me to this. This is I feel good.
Oh,
Um,
thank
All
and
you.
I
right,
can
man.
definitely take this to my babies and other people to let them know it's okay not to understand transition, but it is okay to understand it and
Yeah,
to know what to do in the midst of it happening.
yeah.
So
So,
I feel
yeah.
good. I thank y'all.
Well, thank you. Well, any daughter-in-law of Deborah's is a daughter-in-law of ours. So we all.
All right, man. Welcome to the family, girl.
Yep,
Well, thank
you
you.
better be adopted. So, Zelda, what's in store for tomorrow morning?
Oh, we think we had some seasoned sisters on today. We got some more seasoned sisters on tomorrow. Let the
Mhm.
seasoned sisters save you from unnecessary, painful mistakes on Monday
Mm.
Morning Mindfulness,
Oh
7 to
yeah.
8 a.m. Central Standard Time. Linda Barker, Sisters of the Hood, will be joining us.
Sisters of the Hood. And that's
So,
that's really good because I think a lot of younger sisters need to hear some real down to earth insight because they're making a lot of relationship mistakes. And I
Lot of
hear from both sides because I
And
talk to
I
and
heard one today when I stopped in the McDonald's to use the bathroom, and I was like, "Oh, okay, just let me sit here a little bit longer. I can use some of this tomorrow morning on the show."
yeah, you know.
Isn't that the truth? You hear things and you're like, oh, I need to share that one. Oh,
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. So tune in tomorrow. You'll hear some things like she said, "What?" Yeah, child, she sure did.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. So
Yep.
thank you all, my sisters, and Tanika especially for filling in as our special guest. And
thank
we will see you all tomorrow. So
Yeah.
we're gonna say goodbye to our global family right now.
Feel free to come back anytime, Mika.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
For today. If you missed any broadcast, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, zhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, jonkuyon. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, ngiyabonga. Senegal, jaref. Kenya, asante. Israel, toda. Pakistan, shukriya. Afghanistan, tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.
And to all my yogi friends out there, namaste, satnam, and aloha to all my Hawaiian brothers and sisters. Stand strong. North Carolina, you got this. We're going to help you build better, back stronger. And California, you got a lot of work to do, but you might want to get rid of those people, those politicians who are not really working for your good. Anyway, we love you. Mwah. And thank you. Spread the word, share this. Be sure and like and subscribe to this YouTube channel because we are just getting started with bringing you So we're saying good night and blessings galore